17,280. 17,280 hours is the amount of time I'll have spent in high school over 4 years. I'm a senior now, and looking back, I have no idea where all that time went, because freshman year literally feels like it was yesterday. I was really excited to go to high school. I remember marathoning the whole High School Musical series before high school started, and bursting into school freshman year on that first day, I thought I was the man. I didn't have facial hair then, I don't have facial hair now, but I was the man. But I know that I had a set list of goals that I wanted to accomplish to be successful in high school, and I wanted to give it my all. Who didn't? So that list consisted of being president of this club, being on varsity of that team, getting these grades. It was all set in stone. And I looked at this list every single day. And I decided to start off by running for freshman class president, which was unprecedented, especially for me, because I was just so incredibly awkward and not fond of talking to people. But I ran anyways, on the platform of being the most down-to-earth candidate, because I was short and physically closer to the ground than my competitors. And hey, I won. But eventually, the excitement of being freshman class president wore out, and I found myself in a very mundane cycle of life, which perpetuated for too many days on end. Wake up, eat soggy cereal, go to school, come back from school, eat soggy rice, study, sleep, lather, rinse, and repeat for 17,280 hours. And even though I was doing the right things, something didn't feel right to me. I didn't feel that I was an active participant in life, but rather that life was passing through my fingertips, away from reach, those hours never to come back again. And I knew there was something else that I should have been doing, but I really didn't know what that was. Yes, I was alive. I was conducting electrical synapses in my brain, but so were 7 billion other people. What separated me from them? My epiphany came toward the end of my freshman year. I'd just come home from the most grueling day of practice ever. My team had just made the playoffs, and my coach decided to intensify practice tenfold. I came home with bruises, cuts, and scrapes. It made me never want to go back to math team practice ever again. And to top it all off, I had an AP biology exam the next day, and I was not going to fail this one. So I go home, and naturally I do what any productive teenager would do: procrastinate. I found myself gravitating towards the couch against my will. I was magically levitating there, and I picked up, I don't know how it happened, but I picked up the remote, and I started flickering through the channels, one after another after another. And on the screen was a brilliant young lady who said something that changed my mind forever. She said, and I quote, "A dollar makes me holla, honey boo-boo." Now, ladies and gentlemen, honey boo-boo was onto something, definitely. She found what made her holler, her passion. And I didn't know what my passion was, and that was a huge problem. Passion is a word that is thrown around a lot, especially in our millennial generation. Passion this, passion that, passion pit, passion fruit. But what really is passion? Passion is an electrifying force which enables to accomplish the unaccomplishable, to make possible the seemingly impossible. The problem was I didn't know what that was for me, and I didn't know where to find it. And so a common question I heard throughout my school, because other kids were having the same problem, was, where can I find my passion? But I thought that this was an incredibly weird question and a wrong question to ask, because it presupposes that we have to actively pursue something that already exists, like it's a tangible reality on top of the Himalayas or something. But how can we search for something when we don't even know what that something is? In life, we're not always finding tangible things which are real, but we are creating our own realities. And I think that passion can be created by being a conscious observer of the world around you. The world has potential everywhere to flicker a light in you which you want to take and develop. And you just have to be all ears and just listen and observe to where that potential might be. It could be in your communities, it could be in your school, at your house, in this very room. By being a conscious observer, we can embody all of the different things which communicate the idiosyncrasies of the world in a way that no other human being except you can. So I got to thinking, where was this experience for me? And then I reflected back on a family trip. So when I was 12, my family and I visited Bangladesh, the curry capital of the world. Sorry, India, but you're not the curry capital of the world. And my parents' birthplace. I didn't know much about the country. I'd never been there, except that it flooded a lot, and there was a lot of poor people. But regardless, my mom told me some very interesting stories about her upbringing in Bangladesh. So for instance, after school, she would hide low in the rice paddies outside her village, and whenever an unsuspecting farmer or fisherman were to walk by, she jumped up and literally scared the curry out of these people. No, literally, they dropped their curry that they were carrying. And I wanted to experience this, whole Jungle Book adventure and really live that lifestyle for, a couple weeks as long as I was there, because it just looked like so much fun. But when I got off that plane in the capital city of Dhaka for the first time, I wasn't greeted by dancing bears, but rather a very thick smog, which constricted my lungs, making it incredibly difficult to breathe. The only greenery I saw for miles out was the greens of plastic bottles littered everywhere. But the most profound thing I saw was the immense number of people who were poor and starving outside the airport. Some of these poor people were the old and sick who were just begging for food, begging for money, which they could, get money for their operations and things like that. But the vast majority of the destitute in Bangladesh seemed to be kids no older than me. Oh my, me. And so I was wondering what was happening in the context of this country that caused so many people to, be starving and, sad and destitute. But when I went and I talked to them by being a conscious observer, especially the young people, I realized that they were ironically kind of happy. Happiness, I learned, is relative. With what those people had, they made so much of it. Whereas here, I feel like sometimes when we don't get every little thing that we want, we throw a fit. And that really opened my eyes to what life was like in other countries that are less fortunate than America. And once I was talking with these young people, the problem I realized was that no one would take these kids seriously, even though they had all these amazing ideas on creating change in their communities. That cultural setting in Bangladesh was not very supportive of young people. And after talking to what they had to say, it seemed that there was a positive correlation between poverty and pollution. And those kids had all these creative ideas on how to solve Bangladesh's plethora of pollution problems. But again, no one would listen to what they had to say. And they didn't have the tools and resources to make things like that happen. So when I came back to the United States, I wondered if this was a problem that kids in America were having as well. Maybe they weren't starving and poor in that scale, although that exists in America. I noticed that they had solutions and creative ideas as well that we needed to really encourage for forward progress to happen in American society. And so I I found something I was interested in, and that was young people, and empower young people to do whatever they want, no matter how ridiculous that idea, just to empower them and give them the opportunities to succeed. And so I asked Google how I could volunteer in my local community, and I came across other kids who felt the same way about what I was passionate in, which was youth engagement. And there was an organization called Greeting Forward that was specifically based where I lived, which was just out of coincidence, that worked to empower young people environmentally so they can pursue environmental projects, like for those kids in Bangladesh, by giving them environmental grants, educational curriculum, and mentorship. And so I just contacted the Greening Forward CEO, who was a high schooler. This is a nonprofit organization. His name is Charles, and I just sent him an email saying, can I please get involved? I'm bored out of my mind. I'm not doing anything at my house. Can I just do something, whatever it may be? And he said, sure, you can definitely intern with us. And while the intern work was not glamorous as it was as being freshman class president, I felt a lot more worthwhile, a lot more cultivating of the dreams and passions which I had. Passion is a twofold thing, the dreaming and the doing. And you need an equal balance of both things in the right proportions to really make that passion come alive. And I've been working with Greening Forward ever since to bring environmental change in communities all across the United States and the world by empowering young people to be the leaders of their communities in the here and now. And it's so cool seeing their passions light up because of something that I could help contribute. And so I dedicated all my time into this singular passion, and it has been so worthwhile to see how much I've grown in developing my own skills. And originally that work was not glamorous at all. It was not nation building, world saving, any of that. I was filing papers. I was looking up grant resources. But eventually I worked up my time and my resources and my energy into this cause. And from there, I eventually became vice president of the organization. And I saw the immense scope of people just like me, just like you, who felt lost, who felt like they didn't know what they wanted to do. But finding your niche isn't something that, life isn't a puzzle piece where you have to fit into a specific paradigm. I think life is more like amorphous. It's like a huge glob. And if you are who you are, people will find you. You don't have to fit into a specific social scene, a style, because the world needs you. Because throughout human history, there has been no one like you, and there will never be anyone like you for history to come. And so, in high school, we all have 17,280 hours. How will you spend yours? Thank you.